over here to the Sifra Tzniuta and trying to get into this next pasuk. So the Zohar brings V'yomer Elokim Tadshe Ha'aretz Deshe Eziv Mazria Zera Eitz Pri. Then it says Eitz Pri, etc. Go through this once I go through a little bit of the pasuk itself in the Chumash. Let me just come over here and continue on. So he's going to take these words apart. We're going to see what the hidden meanings of them are. Now, if I got the right place, okay, he brings another pasuk. Adni, I'm pronouncing it, and then he says Havaya, which is menukad with the name by Elokim. Ata chilosa laharos as abdaka as godlucha. Then it says Hashem Yudke Vavke Shlim Besitrui in its side, on its side, in its place. Not sure exactly what that means. Then it says like this, V'chalcha, and this word here, Barachisha, because they said, the concept of spreading, Rachash, on the land. He says, Barachishusa, we have to figure out what this means, Da Da'ara. But Rechisha Do Da'ara has to do with the land itself. Land usually refers to Malchus, but that's the best I can get from it now. He says Da'ara Lo Shlim, because the land is not complete. Yehi, that was Lo Chsiv. It doesn't say let it be. Now, is there any more? No. Let me see, is there more? That's it. Okay, so now we're going to come over, and we'll start to seeing where this is taking us. It comes out, I really don't know much about recording. I know I just like to talk. So in order to get this out, the best idea here, I always thought, was other people should be able to read along with me and learn, as I'm trying to learn, the different words and the ideas. Anyway, he starts out with this, what I call a blurb. It's an intro. He says, Achash Asaim the Voyer Inyan Yud Gimel Tikuni Dikna de Eric Anpen. Yachsa the Voyer Inyan Ivor Valedas Zer Venukve. So he says, Shadis Boyer, all of this, but Perik Kodim, we talked about this, but Klalos in general, and here's an aleph on this. We'll see what he means to say about that as we go through it again. But there we talk generally, he says, about what? He said, the Leleda, a Zohar Venuk. V'yivoyer Atach B'inyan Ivor Zer Anpin Venuk. We're going to go into the details now. The Oz who is lo shlim, because at the point that they're at when they're in the gestation period, they're not complete. Because there you have the male-female comes first. When that happens, it's not reproductive. He's telling you a rule. He says the reproduction is the male. It has to be with the male because he contains the seed. So he says, Ki hanukva kodem is the chura, besod eitz pri kodem, la'asiyis pri. To go over the word, he said, because besod the eitz pri is the nukva. She is the fruit. That is the object. But when it comes before a kodem, let me see if I can read it. Liose. Ose is an act, so it means it's a positive thing. So making a fruit or being a fruit is being something. Making something happen, that requires a male. So therefore there's not going to be, as a result of this, a yichud. And then he says something else, another idea. He says, the nukva ola the bina besod Yom HaKippurim, which is what actually happens, he says, on Yom HaKippurim. Besod base Shemos Adne Havaya, and because of the secret of these two names. One is Adne, which normally always refers to Malchus. V'Havaya, which refers to Zeranpin, that's female and male. Menikud, but they make the Havaya into a nikud, which is menukad and vocalized in the female way. Shehem nukva bina yachad, because what this means is that you're putting the adni, which is exactly how we got to this, I'm not sure, but he says because of what you're doing here, you're putting the adni together with the havaya, and the havaya represents bina. So it's Malchus and Bina writing together. Now this, according to Yaakov Cronenberg, is the month of, well, it's Saturn. It's not Saturn, it's Cancer, what they call Cancer. It's the time of Tammuz. So let me see, I'm just free thinking, trying to understand it. Ubina Yachad, so they're not together. V'gam einim shleimim, they're not complete though, because you don't have the male-female combination, which is what you need. Heimdakim, he says, but because their nature at this kind of, here's what he said. I says, I got to put this together. He says, Malchus goes to Bina. So if Malchus goes to Bina, what's Zer Anpin going to make a yichud with? So he said, Heimdakim, he said, because the status of the actual male-female component here is very, very thin. It's very, very finite. Is that the right word, finite? It's closing towards the infinite. It's almost nothing there. So they're like the antennae of grasshoppers. That's what they're like at that stage. Now, meanwhile, he's talking about the secret of Malchus going to Bina at this point. Lo kasa b'pasuk yehi desha hamora al yitzias v'leda zer anpen. So therefore, the pasuk does not say "let it be," "let there be," meaning that it's actually happening. It's a ma'isa, and he says hamora, which is teaching us about yitzias v'leda zer anpen, the coming out and the birth of zer anpen. Now, a lot of ideas there that really need further examination. So now we're going to start reading over here in the Iver V'lei. What does he call this? He calls this, I don't know what he calls this. This section that we're in right now. So it is called up above. Yeah, let me just show it again. Iver V'lei Zer V'nuk. That's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about that. So he says the pasuk which says, Tad shel aretz desha eziv mazria zera eitz pri osipri, and he has that in brackets because in this section he's going to go why the brackets there, so on and so forth. Because according to the secret here is the Eirech and Papasuk be'iver zer anpin v'nukva b'mei ima gestation. Pirushu hukach the Omer Elokim hu ma'atzel elyon ma'atzel elyon tad sheha aretz deshe. Now this sounds like Tadshe is an action again. So he's saying a rule like this, that an action is a male attribute. Let's say a reaction is a female attribute. Tadshe ha'aretz deshe, koloma ha'aretz elyona, the upper world. Shehi bina tisaver b'socho as zer v'nuk, that she will gestate within herself Zohar v'nuk hanikras desha, and the two of them are called desha. Desha is like vegetable herbs. This is, I think, like growing herbs or grasses, something like that. So therefore, it doesn't say bring out this desha. Like it says in the next pasuk. Let me get this down here. They still didn't give birth. They're still gestating. Then it says this level plus. It's an asev, grass, that can produce seed. So he said, and it doesn't say yehi again. Yud, K, Yud. The Gematria 25. So he says, or am I getting it wrong? He, excuse me, Yud, K, Yud. Yeah, that's right, the Gematria 25. So he says, Hu Lashon Shlemos. But now, when you're talking about the time of gestation, Adayim lo choye zer v'nuk shleimin, the zer v'nuk are still not complete. They haven't come out. He's going to talk about this, apparently. And he says, furthermore, let me get this lined up, sorry. So he says, V'omar od, eitz pri osipri, Amavur bezohar, and it says in the parts of Vayichi, he says, Ki eitz pri hu hanukva. When you say the words eitz pri hu hanukva, so we agree with that. What's the quality of the words eitz pri that means it's female? V'osed pri, and then the concept, he says again, that which makes a fruit, hu zeranpin, because the eitz, I guess it's like this, if it's just sitting there, you have like an unripe peach. So what do? It will never ripen unless you bring this other force in, the male force. Or let's say it's the potential of it, but it's not happening unless you bring the male. So in this stage, the female comes first. Because in gestation, in the embryonic stage, this is the embryonic stage of all reality. However, kodemes hanukva lezer anpin besod du. She comes first. Du partsufim. Now, as I said other time before, we know that du is a Latin word, means two. And this, but here this is something else. She's two partsufim. What does that mean? Ki ima, he besod os hey. She is a letter hey. And you could take that letter hey and you could split it up. Now, when that hay by itself becomes impregnated, and she's carrying within her zervanuk, you can see that hay then can degenerate. And I don't know, that's the wrong word. It could be divided up, I know that, but it devolves or evolves, one or the other, into two separate letters altogether, instead of one letter, which is a hay. We see this in other places, of course. Mislaketes haos hey shel ima. I think it's I wrote mischalekes. It's divided up. The os hey shel ima, the shtei osius, which will be du. Two letters, which will be one will be a dalet, and the other one would be a vav. Just to make the vav a little shorter. But hanukvo who sewed the os dalet, as we know from other places. V'zer anpin is a sewed vav. He is the 6 kitzvos. V'hinei os daled kodemis the os vav. So in this situation, if you read it from right to left, which is how you read Hebrew, the daled is going to come first. So that means that the female aspect is before the male aspect, and that is how we see creation itself. This is the smallest parts of creation for me at this point, to be able to see the power that's able to minimize the light of the hay to the extent that you can actually start dividing it. V'zer anpin hu sod os vav, v'hinei os daled kodemes the os vav b'sod do, or do, v'nimse shachanukvo shehu daled kodemes the zer anpin, which is the vav. So I think we're going to stop the shir now, and we're making notes on other places here. We'll try to get into it more deeply in the next shir.